any kind of AI or Gen AI, you've got to know that it's absolutely going to work and it's going to be spot on. Maybe half the work that used to be done in a laboratory in experimental drug design, could this work, may it work, how could it work, that's now done in silico way with computer modeling. Hire the leaders who also role model it, and hire the managers under the leaders who also role model it, and reward it and recognize it.
Hello and welcome to The Shift, powered by ET Edge Insights, a platform where we sit with industry experts to deliberate key issues that shape the world around us. And today we have with us Mr. John Dawber, the Corporate Vice President and Managing Director, Novo Nordisk. John, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity.
John, to start off with, we're speaking evolution, we're speaking innovation. Given the significant transformation of Novo Nordisk's GBS center in India, which was previously a shared services model, now it's a real hub for transformation. Correct. How do you foresee the role of GCCs in the coming years in an Indian context and a global context, particularly relating to business transformation?
Yeah, thank you. Well, it's a super exciting time for us, and it's a really interesting question. So, to give a little background to the Novo Nordisk GBS or GCC, we started actually here in Bangalore 17 years ago, and it started, as you mentioned, as a traditional kind of shared service center, offshoring, relatively low value transactional work into India. But over the 17 years, the depth of the work that we do and the breadth of the work that we do has expanded honestly beyond belief. And if you were to think about a pharmaceutical value chain, and you might think, okay, what starts in pharmaceuticals starts in a laboratory usually. So let's just remove that for a moment. And then what finishes in pharmaceuticals tends to be a factory. So let's remove that for a moment. And then everything in between. So computational biology, clinical research, biostatistics, regulatory, medical affairs, pharmacovigilance, commercial, etc., etc., etc. That's all housed now within our GCC. And what's happened over the last 2 or 3 years is that we've moved from being the kind of back office in all of those functions into really in the driving seat. So global process ownership, as it's called in our business, is pretty significant across the 17 functions that we house in our GCC. Meaning that now we're a pivotal value creator for Novo Nordisk. And, I think it would be fair to say that our executive team in Denmark would acknowledge that across all of the functions, if we didn't have what we have now in Bangalore, the company would struggle to be able to operate in the speed and with the agility that it does. So it's been a long journey, but it's really accelerated over the last 2 or 3 years. And where do we go from here? I think there are 2 dimensions to it. One is more of the same, and certainly the company feels that the global ownership of processes, of functions, of activities should come more and more and more to India. And then I think we've also got a play for efficiency. So we can perhaps talk a little bit about AI and automation. But certainly a lot of the transactional work that used to be done here is now being replaced by automation, by AI, and the skill levels and the activity and the work that we're doing here is becoming much, much more complex. And I see that as a direction for the future too. So it's a super exciting time.
Right. Carrying on from that point you made about artificial intelligence. So AI, John, today it ceased to be a conversation that we could have had a couple of years from now or even a couple of months from now, but it's a conversation of today, right? We're having it right now. How do you see AI being leveraged in collaboration with such an effort?
Yeah. There are perhaps two parts to this. First of all, in a highly regulated GXP environment, such as a pharmaceutical company, where everything you do has to stand up to the highest level of scrutiny of the authorities, you're not really in a beta testing environment that you can kind of experiment too much. So when you implement any kind of AI or Gen AI, you've got to know that it's absolutely going to work, and it's going to be spot on. So, but that said, we've pretty much again implemented AI tools in almost the whole value chain. So back to this research and early development work, and I mentioned laboratories. So maybe half the work that used to be done in a laboratory in experimental drug design, could this work, may it work, how could it work, that's now done in silico way with computer modeling. So that now makes the laboratory work, the R&D work, and the drug development work just infinitesimally more efficient and faster, meaning we can bring medicines to patients faster. So even in drug development, AI is working. Then if you look again right the way through the value chain, everything in terms of financial processes, activities, analysis, reporting, even content development now, both for our sales organization and our medical organization, with the right kind of parameters in the Gen AI tools, can deliver meaningful content for our sales forces. It still needs the human brain to first of all ask the right question and to make sure that it's correct for the market, but it's integrated in everything we do.
Leadership styles are often, talked about a lot, and yours is one which deals a lot with authenticity, with openness. That's well documented. I mean, Novo Nordisk Thailand was recognized as one of the best places to work. Given that inclusivity is such an integral part of a workplace, how do you scale it?
And thank you. That's a really fun question to answer, because as my previous job, I was general manager of Novo Nordisk in Thailand. We had 200 people, and with 200 people, you can put your kind of personal kind of fingerprint on almost everybody. You can engage with them. You can almost remember 200 names. But then I come here almost 3 years ago, and we're scaling tenfold. And in fact, 20-fold. We're 4,500 people here now.
Wow.
So there are a number of dimensions to answer your question. The first is role model it and hire the leaders who also role model it, and hire the managers under the leaders who also role model it, and reward it and recognize it. The second is to genuinely encourage a speak up culture. So from the 4,000 employees, no such thing as a stupid question. You can ask any question of anybody anytime, and you will get answered. So for example, at all our town halls, when we get the list of 30 questions after the town hall written, I take it as a personal responsibility to make sure every single one of those questions is answered and turned around very quickly and given back to the employees within 3 or 4 days. And that kind of builds trust, because people realize that I can ask a question that's important to me. I'm not going to be judged for it, and I'm going to get a sensible explanation and answer. So you can work on the speak up culture, and I do that. You can work on the open door policy, and I do that. And then you can work on the leadership culture, being sure that we reward, we recognize, and we hire the folk that are in that image. And perhaps the final little bit, and I don't know whether other companies do this, maybe they do. We are onboarding perhaps anywhere between 10 and 40 new employees every single week. So that's a significant number over a year. And every Monday morning, the first person they meet is me.
Yeah.
So I do a little talk about the company's history, about the culture, about the organization they're joining, and I encourage them from that first 45 minutes in the company that they can come at any time and speak up to anybody in the management. And that kind of works. It means you're putting your little thumbprint on on some hundreds, maybe 1,000 people in a year. And over a couple of years, you've touched everybody.
Now we know how important public-private partnerships are, right? What is your view on how successful public-private partnerships are not just going to help the GCC landscape in India domestically, but as well as on a global scale?
It's a real need of the hour, I think. And, in a country like India, where, as a diabetes company, just first of all, there are 100 million people with diabetes. How can possibly one company or a couple of companies actually access and reach 100 million patients with our somewhat limited resources? But if we partner with government, national and state government, we have a shared agenda. We also partner with academia to be able to again get a shared understanding of a disease state or educating new employees for us. We've got a much better chance of impacting what is a very debilitating disease. So for us, I think we are very much into creating a shared agenda. And that can sometimes, of course, be challenging because, Novo Nordisk's 100 years old and will probably still be working in diabetes and obesity 100 years from now. Whereas, governments perhaps sometimes look a little shorter term. And so we've got to be able to work together, dance together, and find that shared agenda of healthcare improvement for a population, which might take us 10, 15 years, 20 years, and succeed a number of electoral changes. So it's not super easy, but it's critically important if we're going to improve the health of this country or indeed the health of the world.
GCCs, have become more and more integral to business strategies, decision making. And what key skills do you think the employees of today should have, given that we are surrounded in a world that is, almost taken over by AI?
A very interesting question, and it's something we were discussing actually with some of our Denmark and Zurich international operations leaders who were here visiting our teams in Bangalore this week. There's a key difference between the analysis of the oceans of data that we have and the insights that we generate from that data. And so for our employees, we're wanting to encourage them to really have a curious, challenging mindset of the data that's in front of them. And in our business, that also means deeply understanding, in our case, the doctor and the patient, because you can often get beautiful dashboards of data, but it's meaningless unless you understand the insights that you can generate from that. So the AI can churn out the data, it can deliver us the beautiful dashboards, but it often takes a brain that's got value chain experience or understands the customer deeply to be able to pull out the meaningful insights from that data.
Right. John, this has been really insightful and a pleasure to be a part of.
Thank you
for your
very
time.
much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.